All right, let's discuss tight junction proteins. So, what is a tight junction protein? That is a glue like material, mostly from amino acids, that connect the cells together. It's also known as leaky gut syndrome, which is discussed in a number of uh, articles and so forth. It's exactly the same thing. So, why is this important? And perhaps I should explain where they're located. They're located in a lot of different membranes, but our particular focus is on the gut experience or the gut wall, so to speak. These tight junctions begin to erode. And when they erode, then inflammatory molecules begin to circulate in the bloodstream. And when they circulate in the bloodstream, they cause more inflammation. So it's a self reinforcing loop. The tight junction proteins become loose. It's like having a filter, say a coffee filter, that has lost its integrity and now has bigger holes on it. Now the coffee grounds go through the pot. So they find out that there's a number of reasons why they begin to disintegrate, mostly from inflammation. And I'm going back to the gut, where, again, I'll mention that 70% of immunity is found there. So you cause more inflammation from the tight junction proteins not being secure. And with that inflammation, it gets systemic, which puts a larger burden on your body. And of interest, what they found out is I discussed previously about short chain fatty acids. That begins to decrease. Those are produced by certain gut bacteria. Some people have read about those. But the studies were clear that those bacteria that produce those were not evident in these conditions. And a lot of the reason is because of the tight junction proteins that are creating very high inflammatory stress. Those bacteria that produce those cannot grow in that environment. So we go a little bit more into best ways to support the gut environment is by helping the tight junction proteins. And then I mentioned that bone broth, and that's where I made great gains. I discovered Aldi is by an organic chicken broth, and then I started mixing a little bit of coconut oil in there, and I'll explain that in a second, with some anti-inflammatory spices like, say, turmeric, and it's been well studied. The coconut oil helps carry the turmeric a little bit deeper inside the cells so it can be anti-inflammatory. There's a number of other herbal or spice related, for instance, like ginger or peppermint, very calming for the gut. But those proteins that are found in the bone broth are like they're collagen. related. That's how they get the broth. That same profile that's found in collagen is found in the gut wall. So you're replenishing the amino acids or the proteins or the collagen, whatever you want to call it, to help build the wall back up. And as a side note, I thought it was interesting in Alzheimer's, they found that the tight junction proteins, they're also found in the brain, were the causative factor of neurological problems because the blood-brain barrier is there. So one other thing that you can do if you wanted to accelerate it is the collagen peptides, which have become much more popular. Same basic profile as the bone broth. I mentioned they're about $25 on Amazon. I mentioned, let's see, we got the herbal stuff. So using some bone broth with coconut oil, some anti-inflammatory herbs or spices, which I mentioned, you can add others, I do, will help rebuild those tight junction proteins. So it's going to be a systemic benefit. Not only is the gut going to be healthier, it's going to reduce inflammatory stress throughout the entire body. And one of the things that I found noticeable was the effect on my neurology. My anxiety dropped down significantly, and I began to feel a lot more just better, more stable. It took a little bit. Some of these therapies are not overnight therapies. You have to practice them for a little bit, at least a week. I also mentioned in the previous series about the basic nutrients, vitamin A and vitamin D also support tight junction proteins and immunity in the gut. I also mentioned selenium, which is going to help with that. And I mentioned antioxidants, which are going to help protect the tight junction proteins.